Peace, peace. Welcome to the YouTube live book reading of Sacred Sounds. Oh, man, this is so good. Peace, peace. Sacred Sounds. Discover the magical power of singing, speaking, and storytelling. Magic and healing through words and music. I'm your moderator and narrator, Uriel Riley. Highest heart love. All right. So we begin and pick up this reading. This is the 19th reading. Pick up at page 121. In the middle at the top. Peace. Highest heart love. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Peace. Highest heart love. Moose Rail. Much love. All right. Here we go. 121. In the middle. Bardic training. Each mystery tradition had its own keynote or key theme. It was important for the student bard to dig into the roots of his or her civilization and discover the esotericism of its folklore. Those who wish to resurrect this process must do likewise. Look to the origins of the ancient myths and look at their similarities. What is the origin and significance of the Arthurian legends and the Nebelungelide, the Volkssunga and Saga, and the Oceanic Cycle, Beowulf, Robin Hood, Hiawatha, Coyote Trickster, the Bushman Mantis tales? We've lost touch with our myths, and we must learn to create them anew in the tradition of the ancient bards. An Ethiopian proverb states, when the heart overflows, it comes out through the mouth. This is appropriate to the ancient art of the and training in the bardic traditions. As the individual was awakened to the dynamic energies of the universe, these would be relayed to others through the dynamics of storytelling. There are legends and tales about many of the ancient schools of wisdom that dealt with the power of the word. The schools of prophets in biblical scripture was founded by Samuel, who was the great initiate singer of his day. Song and dance was the way to liberate the soul from the body and connect to the divine feminine wisdom of the universe. The next of the great initiate singers of the school prophets was David, who used his harp as a symbol. Many of the biblical psalms are attributed to him and cannot fully be experienced unless sung. Elisha, the prototype of Jesus, used the harp to induce a prophetic state. In Arabia, training was given in the writing of Islamic poetry to lift the soul to ecstasy. In the Norse lands, skaldcraft was the primary teaching of the inner schools of music, and the Irish spent years of training. The Irish poet-tellers studied their art for 15 years and had to be wise in philosophy, astronomy, and magic, and conversant with 250 prime tales and 100 subsidiary ones. The Shanachis, who told the historical tales, were entrusted with 178 prime stories. Minstrel brotherhoods existed in Europe during the Middle Ages, the Strasbourg Brotherhood of the Crown, and that formed by St. Nicholas of Vienna in 1288. In Germany, there was a guild of Meistersingers at Nuremberg, which had three divisions: apprentices, students; companions, neophytes; and masters, initiates. There were actually five grades in the guild of Meistersingers. 1. Pupils. 2. School of friends, who had to know something of the rules of music and song, and a certain number of tones and poems. 3. Singers had to be able to sing without error a given number of songs and poems. 4. Poets had to be able to make new poems based on the old models, as the new ever builds upon the old. The task was to conserve the elements of the past that had enduring worth, and those elements which were a hindrance were left behind. Peace, welcome YouTube. Welcome to the live book reading of Sacred Sounds. Magic and healing through words and music. And what we do on this channel, this is the peaceful part of YouTube. We read books and learn from masters. I will put all of the books, readings into a playlist, and then you just tap on the playlist of the book and it'll read it all with you. So if you have the book at home, this is the perfect channel to get involved with just reading with us. Thank you so much for being here. All right, we are moving to the top of page 123 for those reading along and in the playlist. Hi, it's Heart Love. Thank you so much for being here. Much love to the light workers. Happy Monday. All right. And 5, masters invented a new tone and a new mode. The master had to make his or her own rules and then follow them. Each was to be a creator in their own right. They were expected to give free expressions to their own genius, but in strict adherence to the law of his or her own being. The individual had to be able to accommodate the changing needs of the creative spirit. Let's drop a pin right here because this is a very big key in becoming a master. We talked about this earlier, yes, in one of the readings, right? It's a very key point that we just made here. So when you start to master your craft, like me, I'm a master fitness trainer. You then, I'm a master poet as well. You be able to create your own modalities. That's the difference between a master. I've created the harmonic vibrational manual, as well as I've created the Your Healing manual and modality. That's two modalities that I have created out of my mastery. This is when you've reached that master level. You're not just using what others have used, you're adding on top of it. So now, when I released the harmonic vibrational manual, there's another actual modality now to use and to craft your voice. When I release the Your Healing manual, there'll be another healing modality for someone to apply to other people. Diaphragmatic breathing and assisted stretching and pressure points to the hands and to the feet which causes a healing process in the entire body, inside and out. Just explaining it to a new potential client yesterday. And they were like, I've never heard of that before. And I'm like, well, you're not going to hear of it because I'm the only one that does it. So I would know if you would ever have had your healing session. But this just digs into the levels of mastery. When we are at mastery level, we create our own and new modalities, like it just said in 5. All right, we add on. The earlier initiate, bards, sang often of heavenly realms, cloaking their experiences of these realms in poetry, song, and story. The dream songs were often their accounts of the inner plane activities. The master song was one that was inspired from sources higher than the earth. Training in the bardic traditions took two basic forms. The first was training, an inherited training. There could be there could be a loose blood relationship with the teacher. There, yes. Or the training was passed on from one member of the family to the next by word of mouth. The second was through apprenticeship with a group or an individual. This could be formal or informal instruction and initiation. The formal apprenticeship really does not exist anymore in the world. An example of formal training, however, could be seen through the Zenza of Japan. The student was called Manari or a Minari, and in their first period of training, they worked with a master for about 6 to 12 months. This period was called the act of entering the gate of apprenticeship. The master would give the student an artistic name. This reminds me of one of the great initiates that I worked with Goddess Tahita Haley, called her Earth Wonder. And oh, says, you're good. Thank you. Oh, highest heart love. Ooh, the peaceful part of YouTube where we read books and learn from masters. Thank you so much for being here and in conversation with us. But yeah, Earth Wonder, she was very petite, very magical, and very powerful. And her hands were just so strong. Called her Earth Wonder because she was just so magical in her touch and her healing abilities. So when we start to master our forms and then we see the ones that are coming behind us, we tend to give them an initiate name. And hers is Earth Wonder. Much love to Haley. Highest heart love. Your birthday's coming up as well. Happy solar return. Beginning of month of March. So we're getting there. Happy February, everyone. Peace, peace. All right, we're at the bottom of page 123. The second period of training would last 2 to 3 years. During this time, the student was never to write any stories down. They had to recite the stories verbatim until they had discovered for themselves the secret of the story. When the student knew the story well enough, only then were they allowed to work away from the master and interpret the stories and songs in their own way. It is not unusual to find that the students were given instruction in philosophy, astrology, and healing in conjunction with the musical and storytelling training. The students had to learn the proper formulas and effects and then learn to use the formulas in their own manner. In the next chapter, There are some charts on the effects of musical harmony when applied to the storytelling process. In an informal apprenticeship, the process was a little different. There was still training in many esoteric subjects, and the training often lasted a period of 1 to 3 years in most areas of the world. This is reflected in the teachings of Jesus Christ and the apostles. Some informal apprentices have lasted as long as 10 years. Usually, the student must either only listen or repeat word for word what the master recites and tells. Through imitation, the student learns the material and how to develop resonance with an audience. Only then is the student allowed to perform on his or her own. In most societies, the bard had to be able to draw upon a wealth of tales and myths to suit the occasion and adapt it to the understanding of the audience. Some of the stories, myths, and tales common to all of the bardic traditions can be placed in the following categories. All right, here we go. Categories. This is so good, right? Peace, everyone. Hi, it's Heart Love to all the book lovers and book lover community, as well as all the authors, readers, and writers. This is the peaceful part of YouTube where you'll be right in community with us, reading books and learning from masters. Thank you so much for being here and sitting and listening, and this is much, much love. All right, so these are the following categories. Let's run through them, okay? We only have so much left on this reading of this chapter. We might as well finish it out today. All right, let's do it. Stories of the young and old. Mhm. Stories of true loves or and false. Stories of riddles, tricksters, and rogues. Stories of the wise fool. Stories of heroes, historical and mythical. Stories of wonder and magic. Stories of shape shifting. Stories of non human life. Stories of fooling the devil. Stories of quest for wisdom. Stories of ghosts and ancestors. Stories of birth and creation. Stories of death and the world's end. Stories of morality and behavior. Stories of the relationship of the divine and humanity. Page 125 in the middle. Here we go. The magic in myths and tales. Thank you for the likes and subs. We're pushing towards 600 on this peaceful part of YouTube. So we're getting the subs up there. Thank you so much for helping me grow the channel. Hi, it's Heart Love for all the shares and book readers out there sharing this information. Sacred sounds. Discover the magical power of singing, speaking, and storytelling. Magic and Healing Through Words and Music by the great Master Ted Andrews. We're in the 5th chapter of Sacred Sounds. The magic in myths and tales. The transmission of tales serves a number of functions. First, tales entertain. Second, they endow a society or person's position with greater value. Third, they serve to educate. They help to maintain and delineate proper behavior. They cloak mysteries, teachings, and energies that could otherwise be profaned. They help us to find meanings in our own lives. The importance of myths and tales in the evolutionary process of a people or individual has been overlooked in modern society. Children in more ancient times were schooled in the listening arts. The Xhosa and Zulu of South Africa are still trained in listening and narrating at an early age. The Iboda is a storytelling event within the celebration of a family in Africa because they were so often imbued with a dynamic thought form of energy and phrased in such a manner so as to elicit a specific effect. The tales and myths of the ancient bards were magical. They were spellbinding. For a story to truly hold a child's attention, it must entertain him or her and arouse his or her curiosity. But to enrich his or her life, it must stimulate his or her imagination, help her or him to develop his or her intellect, and to clarify his or her emotions, be attuned to his or her anxieties and aspirations, give full recognition to his or her difficulties, while at the same time suggesting solutions to the problems with which perturb her or him. In traditional Hindu medicine, tales are given to the individual to meditate upon. The tale gives form to a particular problem. The individual must find his or her own solutions, inspired by the circumstances within the tale. The content of the tale reflects the inner conflicts of the individual. The person giving the tale must attune to the individual, infuse the tale with the right images so that it will resonate with the individual. Because of the symbolic language within myths and tales, they can be used for two kinds of magic. The first is a form of sympathetic magic. This is reflected in the phrase like attracts like. The images are linked to archetypal energies that can be released into the individual's life through a form of mythic immersion in which the individual places him or herself into the scenario while in a meditative state. The energies associated with the tale are released. We do this a lot with meditation. You focus upon the energies that you want to bring into your life. It's then about activating a release for them so that they can be and prominent and eminent in our life. Then we can use them. We get clarity as well as wisdom from them using these energies. So, very powerful point. Thank you so much for reading with us. Much love to all the book readers. This release occurs in a unique manner and yet will follow the pattern of the story. This is the source of the power behind many of the ancient ritual plays. This release may stimulate certain physical life circumstances, enlightenment, and symbolized by the story, or it may simply trigger magical enlightenment. The storyteller, through his or her technique, induces an altered state of consciousness and a dynamic resonance and or responses in the audience. The audience experiences the story much in the same manner as getting caught up with a movie or a good book. The difference is that the words and images are chosen and expressed so as to elicit effects on the emotional, mental, and spiritual consciousness of the individual. The second form of magic can be called impartial, and it is used more often for individual enlightenment. In this form, the part stands for the whole. The tale tells only part of the story, but it reveals enough that the individual is capable of making the leap to its true understanding. The second form is more subtle, and it actually may have a variety of significances. Many of the ancient parables, especially those found within the New Testament scriptures, have as many as seven interpretations. It is the last and deepest, which encompasses all of the others. Refer to the section in this chapter, Mysteries in the Christian Parables. This technique of magical enlightenment was often used to prevent the deeper esoteric truths from being profaned. Each individual to search out the significance themselves and find the applications to his or her own life circumstances. Myths and tales, like dreams, can touch us on all levels. They provide a structure and a tool for life direction. The ancient bards recognized this and utilized it to open higher visions, to restore health, and to overcome obstacles. Myths and tales help us to deal with individual predicaments of our lives. In most myths and tales, good and evil are present, and both have their attractions. There are differences, however, between myths and such stories as fairy tales and parables. Myths are often broader, and the divine interplay of life is more apparent. Fairy tales of simple stories take those same ideas and translate them into terms for the average person. The ancient bards often translated the myths into working and understandable model for the average person, resulting in our fairy tales and folklore. Today, we have the task of using them to build new mythologies or new expressions of the old. The modern bard must learn to use stories, poems, songs, and words to form a bridge to the more complex archetypes that once were reflected only in ancient mythologies. There is within the ancient power of the word an operative law, sometimes called the law of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. Simply, what we do on one level affects us on all levels. As we learn to use the tales and stories and imbue them with greater power and significance, we open to that archetypal energy more fully. Although the fairy tale may be simpler and often more comprehensible, it can open us to those more primal energies. All tales and myths speak to us in symbols. As we will learn, there are specific ways of using sacred sound to imbue the images with greater force. As we learn to do so, not only do they come to life for us, but we can learn to bring those same energies into life in others. We free the archetypes behind the images to manifest within our lives. Peace. Official place. Hi, it's Heart Love. Thank you, Kelly. Much love. We are pushing towards 600 subs on this peaceful part of YouTube where we read books and learn from masters. Master fitness trainer Uriel Neville Riley. So thank you for being here and reading with us. We're at the last part of this book, of this chapter. Chapter 5, A History of the Mystical Bards, is where we're at right now. All right, middle of page 128. Mysteries in the Christian Parables. The parables in the Christian scriptures can be placed in 6 categories, reflecting the lessons and stages of true unfoldment. Parables of the Old and New. These are parables that teach of the process of change and building upon the old. Some examples include such parables as new wine and old wine, treasures new and old, and the new patch on the old garment. Parables of the preparation for discipleship. These depict the qualities and dedication necessary for discipleship. It includes such parables as Pearl of a Great Price, The Hidden Treasure, The Mustard Seed, and The Leaven. Page 129 of this 5th chapter. Parables as symbols of discipleship. These 7 tales depict the lessons associated with the qualities needed to move from discipleship to a higher initiation. 4 of these were told in large crowds, and 3 were given to the apostles in private. They are the chief seats, the Pharisee and the publican, the laborers and the hours, parable of the talents, parable of the pounds, the good Samaritan, and the parable of the sower. Parables of obstacles toward attainment. Mhm. These depict pitfalls and obstacles that the individual may encounter upon the path. They include such parables as the unmerciful servant, the young ruler, the rich fool, Lazarus and the rich man, the prodigal son, the lost sheep, and the rejected cornerstone. Parables teaching the process of regeneration. These involve the higher teachings of alchemy, discipleship, and testing upon the initiatory path. Some examples include the parables of the barren fig tree, the Last Judgment, and the parable of the tares. Parables of initiation. These are the parables containing deeper esoteric significance, and they involve words and images symbolic of the deeper truths. They are for those who have found the path of discipleship and were ready for the deeper work of attainment. They include the teachings of the Kundalini and the primal creative forces. They include parables of the wise and foolish virgins, the great supper, the wedding garment, and the wedding of the king's son. Through the biblical parables, definite steps in occult development are revealed. They contain words, phrases, and images symbolic of the way of evolution for the masses and the way of initiation for the few. And we completed chapter 5. Yes. Completed another chapter of this magical book, Sacred Sounds. Woo! So when we come back, we will move into chapter 6, one of my favorite chapters in this book, the art of magical storytelling. When we reconvene with Sacred Sounds, discover the magical power of singing, speaking, and storytelling, magic and healing through words and music. Thank you so much for being here and reading with us. Hi, it's Heart Love to all my friends and family. Look at this. Oh, this is your good. God, thank you so much. Hi, it's Heart Love. Love to all our friends and family, right? Mom, I love you so much. Dad, thank you so much. My mom and dad are just amazing. So grateful and thankful for all I have now and all that is coming to me. Thank you all for being here and reading with us, all the book lovers. We really appreciate you. All right. Let's have a glass of love water in honor to another great book reading. I wish the sound as well as visuals were great for you. Hi, it's Heart Love. I love you. Glass of love water. Honor of all our friends and family. Adrian Newell, happy solar return. I love you. One of my best friends, older sisters. She's always been a bright light in the world. Wonderful mother. Hi, it's Heart Love. All right. Bianca, hi, it's Heart Love to you as well. Good. Oh, I love you. Glass of love water. I love you. I love you. I love you. We are shaking it up on YouTube reading books, right? Thank you so much for the likes and subs. We are pushing towards 600 on this peaceful part of YouTube. Thank you so much. I'm so thankful and grateful for all I have now and all that is coming to me. Energy flows freely through me. Prosperity and love are attracted to me. So grateful. So thankful and grateful. I wish y'all have a wonderful day. Happy Monday. When we reconvene, we're moving into the 6th chapter of this new book. So, passing along knowledge and wisdom, shaking it up. Woo! Hey ya, 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 hey ya. I love you. I love you. Thank you so much for being here and reading books with us. And a peaceful part of YouTube, and cultivated it myself along with you. So thank you for keeping it peaceful here. Thank you to all my mods, all my friends and family. Yeah, this is a high level. Yeah. That's right. A place with integrity and love for all the people. That's what we do as light workers. Shine a light. Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Love, love, love you, you. You know. Ay, 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 ay. Love, love, love you. You. You know it. Because I love myself. I'll see you soon. Thank you to all the book lovers community. Peace, peace.